Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fun and Games Podcast. I'm Geoff Moonen,
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
and we'd like to apologize for the past few weeks. There haven't been episodes on our regular release schedule. We wanted to see if we would unlock a podcasting achievement if we held off on releasing more episodes. Turns out that's not how it works.
No, apparently not. Yeah, we thought if we went an extended month and a half or so without an episode, we'd get some kind of glorious platinum achievement, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, and I don't know why we wanted to go for it, because honestly, I'm not a big fan of achievement culture, and that's something we wanted to talk about this episode.
Well, I thought it was a nice follow-up to the previous episode we did on Easter eggs and stuff, because achievements kind of started out like that before the days of like the Xbox Live and the trophies and the achievements on Xbox. Achievements within games, meta achievements, were kind of within the code of the game, like the achievement in Metroid to beat the game under a certain amount of time, and you find out that Samus is a woman because it shows her without her suit on, stuff like that. But as we hit the Xbox 360 generation and PS3, and it was a little bit in the Wii within certain games, we had achievements, things that you had to do to unlock within the game, kind of these meta tasks like kill 100 enemies or get to this point in the story. And I was actually a big achievement whore, as I called myself, back when it first started, when I first got the 360. I just thought it was cool to have this other meta goal, so it made certain games that were maybe on the shorter side have more to do. But I feel like the industry's kind of come full circle on it, because those are seeming to be either less common or less important. Like a lot of completionists I know who like to complete games through and through care less about the achievements and more of the in-game MacGuffins like extra costumes or better weapons or whatever.
Absolutely. I actually was going to say that I'm very much a completionist when it comes to games. And I really like having a save file with 100%, or like getting to see all of the little things filled in, have all the inventory spots filled, have all the characters. It satisfies an obsessive compulsive part of my personality. It satisfies me. Like, that's the only way to put it. And I did not get an Xbox 360 until much later in the cycle, and I think that was to my benefit, because I kind of had a similar initial feeling about the idea of like having a gamer score and having like, oh, there's all these points in these things and you can fill that out too. Ooh, isn't that wonderful? But there comes a certain point when it becomes too much. And it's actually, I find in looking at it now, a really interesting study in degrees, I would say. Because our last episode, we talked a lot about Easter eggs and the discoveries and things like that. And it's not as if finding something or doing something interesting shouldn't be acknowledged or rewarded. But it's when it becomes a game can't be released on the PlayStation Network until it has trophies.
Right.
And then it becomes rather arbitrary. People buying Xbox 360 games because it's easy to get all of the achievements on it. And while there is a really interesting culture behind it, and I definitely watched a few episodes of Achievement Hunters when Rooster Teeth first started doing that, it's sort of I don't know exactly how to put it. Like, it's sort of a bland taste or a sourness about it all.
Well, I think for me, like when Gamerscore was first a thing, like I prided myself, it was, as they called it, your digital e-peen, this idea that your Gamerscore is so big and so massive. But this idea that you could get points, and you're right, like a lot of people were getting easy games to build it out. I mean, I liked the achievements in the Lego games on the 360 because I felt like a lot of them were fairly natural. But you could do some meta stuff like get a certain amount of bricks and studs and characters or whatever. The achievements that always drove me crazy, especially early on, I'll never forget. It's one of my favorite video games on the 360, but one of the dumbest achievements. And it was in Assassin's Creed 2, which is the one starring Ezio. And the first achievement you get is from the first scene of the game where they show Ezio born to his parents. and you get an achievement for being born. That's it. Like, there's no gameplay. There's no way to not get that achievement. And I always thought that stuff that you were rewarded for just playing the game, like the game existing, kind of defeated the purpose. Like when you had to get, 3 headshots in 2 seconds on Call of Duty or something like that, that at least made sense. It had showed some kind of skill, and you had a badge of honor for showing that you had that skill. But when it just says complete story mode is an achievement, it's like, like if you play on an easy enough difficulty, you'll get that. Like, what does it matter that there's an achievement for that?
And I guess the idea might be, well, this encourages people to finish the game.
Right.
Well, having a good game should encourage people to finish the game.
Sure.
And it's interesting that there are other games that have kind of a built-in achievement system. For example, looking at Super Smash Bros. Melee.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many interesting point bonuses you can get in a match. You can get Switzerland for causing no damage. You can get bonuses for not using a shield, using nothing but shield, using items, doing this, only using up moves, whatever. And was there any grand design to it? Well, you could say you've gotten all the point bonuses, but it didn't add to some global score, and it was an achievement unto itself. And I guess because it doesn't go on to some sort of like global identity, it feels a little saner. It feels a little more palatable. I guess it's the idea of having it be basically forcing an e-peen, like to use the term, which I think is actually a perfect term for it.
Well, sure, I would agree, especially with Smash Brothers. Like in the later Smash Brothers games, because I don't remember if the first one had this, but for sure Melee and Beyond, you could get trophies, like actual trophies of characters, of stages, of whatever, and like that was a collectible worth getting because like you hunted them down, and like introducing something like that into those games was cool. The idea of collectibles. And we've talked about this a little, but I feel like collectibles are more engaging in a game than achievements are. The idea behind achievements is the same thing, essentially. Like you're collecting all of these badges of honor, or trophies for the PlayStation.
Yeah.
And I think it made more sense in Nintendo games like that, where you got these really cool things just for doing the game or for doing a special thing in the game that was isolated to that game.
Yeah, I've been seeing footage of Super Mario Odyssey, which I, by the way, have been playing and absolutely loving.
Same.
Of people going to some of the more bizarre, out-of-the-way spots, seemingly unreachable, doing insane platforming tricks to get there, and they just find piles of coins. Like, not thousands and thousands, but like a couple hundred coins. Good-looking pile. Does this move the story forward? Was it needed to get an obscure moon to advance your completion? No. It was just a boatload of coins. And it's Nintendo going, you made it up here. That shouldn't go unremarked. This shouldn't be a requirement. But good on you for getting up here. It's a fine line.
Well, yeah, and continuing to talk about Mario Odyssey, because it wouldn't be an episode of our podcast if we didn't obsess about some Nintendo Switch game. Those who are drinking along can drink. With Odyssey specifically, and me playing it, like every time I engage in the story, it's a blast. And then I keep thinking to myself, I'm just going to play the story. I want to get through, and then I'll come back for other moons. But I find myself in almost an ADD-esque way, like wandering off to see if I can find a moon, or seeing something that looks a little off and going, I wonder if there's a moon there. What's even more fun for an internal achievement system is every time you get a moon, it has a name, whatever the name is. And either it's very straightforward, like found a moon in a cave, or it can be very punny and specific to what you had to do to get it. And I really appreciate that. And it's gone in a flash, and I don't even know off the top of my head if you can look them up. I'm guessing like when you look at the lists of the moons, it has the names of each moon you found.
Yeah.
But, so you can go back and reflect if you want, but otherwise it's a fun thing in the moment contained to the game. It has a date stamp so you know when you got it, which I think is actually really cool. And that's it. And then you move on to the next thing, whatever you're going to do.
I agree. And I think it's the fault of trophies and achievements is not in their very existence.
Right.
Because there is much that can be said for that. Like having those there, you kind of go, well, my God, there's 75 moons in the desert world. I want all of them. And finding these things are very intriguing. But just having them as a blanket need or yeah, just trying to fulfill a spot. It's very funny that when Ezio is born, you get an achievement. It's a wonderful commentary on the concept in general.
Right.
But yeah, getting trophies in Final Fantasy 13 when I get to the next chapter just feels dumb.
Right.
If I go and can get new items, cool. If something shifts and changes, great. Those are the rewards I want. It doesn't have to be an in-game thing. Change the color of the border of a menu, anything. But I guess it's just a kind of a so here's some points. And I can see also why, in some ways, they might encourage you to do other things. I remember, off the top of my head, some of BioShock's trophies having to do with using different weapons.
Right.
Now, left to my own devices, I will use nothing but shotguns and wrenches. And not even in BioShock. Put me in any sort of game or like combat-oriented video game situation. It's like, what kind of weapons do you want? I want shotguns and wrenches, or whatever the nearest equivalent. And to get achievements for like fully unlocking all the different guns, it's like, okay, this at least encourages me to try different guns. Okay, cool. But I rather had more fun getting the bonuses to my damage when I would use the camera and learn more and more and get better shots of all of the different enemies and splicers.
Right.
That was a better thing. Or another example, and this is fulfilling the other bingo card slot here, Final Fantasy VII. A couple of years ago, I did a playthrough of Final Fantasy VII on PS4, the Steam re-release version,
Right.
with the 3 times speed, the everything else. Sarah and I would go over to Stella Chu's apartment back when they were living on the East Coast, and it would be me, Sarah, Stella, and Geoff, and we played through, and it inadvertently turned into a platinum run.
Right.
Just because I utterly love that game and overplay it to death. And I had 3 times speed to do it and all kinds of other little boosts and this and that. And everyone being like, you're not playing the game right. Shut up. I'm enjoying the game. And then it's like, all right, yeah, I will master all these materia. Yeah, I will beat Emerald Weapon. Yeah, why not? I got everything done in the first playthrough except dating Barrett. And it became well, damn, I guess we have to do one more stream where we'll start again and we'll do everything in our power to have the Barrett date in Gold Saucer.
Right.
And so, given that I've played through that game dozens of times, and this was the thing that finally made me like, shut up and do it. Okay, cool. That is my argument in favor of trophies and achievements.
Well, I have one also that is a very unique case because I can't think of other games that have done it, although there might be others, and listeners feel free to let us know. But
always correct us, please.
Yeah. When the original Mass Effect came out and the subsequent Mass Effects, because it was a while before they were on other consoles, they were originally Xbox exclusives, it was the first time that achievements unlocked stuff in the game, as BioWare does. Like getting the achievement for completing the game unlocked special abilities that you could use later. Like the different classes in Mass Effect allowed you to only access certain powers, but getting certain achievements for like doing things with certain characters or using a certain weapon a certain amount of times allowed you to get certain abilities outside of your class at the start of the game when you started a new game plus, or what the equivalent of a new game plus was.
And these are distinctly tied to the achievements?
Yes. You couldn't unlock when you unlocked the achievement by doing this thing in the game, that also unlocked this thing in the game. Essentially, the action had 2 effects. It unlocked an achievement and it unlocked an extra power, better stats, awesome, an extra weapon, whatever it was. And they continued that, from what I recall, through the rest of the series. But it was much more closely tied 1-to-1 ratio in the first game, which I thought was really cool. Like using the push ability 100 times or whatever it was, unlocked push for all your characters every time you made a new one, which I thought was really cool. And I had not really seen a game do anything like that, and I'm at a loss to think of another game that's done it since. You know, there have been some rewards, you know, 1-to-1 ratio, like completing the game under a certain amount of time nets you whatever this cool thing is.
Yeah.
But like going back to Mario Odyssey really briefly, I feel like the outfits that you get are also like achievements, because there's some outfits that you just get through the game by spending money, you have it, and then there are other outfits that are locked behind, you know, getting a certain amount of the purple currency from whatever world.
Yeah.
And then there are some that are locked behind amiibos, of course.
Always.
And so, like, I think that's really cool because, like, having that closet of all of those outfits is like a way to browse your achievements, but they actually have a visual component because you can wear those outfits.
And it even has some small in-game effects, depending upon if you're wearing the outfit of the world, you get into other little areas.
Right.
I have not gotten far enough into the game, but I do know, due to internet spoilers and whatnot, that Bowser in the final confrontation comments on your outfit.
Yeah, I've seen those spoilers too. I think the funniest one was because of the 3 amiibo set they released of all 3 of the main characters, you can get Bowser's outfit for Mario, and if you load in to that final fight wearing that, he compliments you before realizing you're not supposed to be there, which, you know, is very funny.
And he also compliments you if you're wearing Peach's dress.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, he says something different. They're not the same generic, you know, looking good Mario. Like, one of them was just like, looking sharp there, but it doesn't matter because you weren't invited. And the other one's just like, you look amazing. Great outfit.
Right.
It doesn't. And so they're distinct enough. And again, not a big gameplay change, but it is an experience change.
Yeah. Sure. Well, it's like when Chrono Trigger came out for the nth time on the 3DS, it sort of had achievements. It had a stat screen on the home screen. You could load up your file, and there was a bestiary to show you what enemies you fought. There was like a weapon lot, like an armory, and then there was a thing that tracked all of the endings, all 18 or whatever it is. The number's probably not 100% right.
Right.
And every time you unlocked an ending, you could see it, and you could rewatch the final cutscene from the game. So it was this like archive. That's a cool achievement kind of tracking that I really like, because, you know, in the Super Nintendo cartridge, you could just get them. There was no way to kind of keep track of that stuff. You would have to like write it down like a MOOC. But now, like, because the tech is built in that you can track these kinds of things, I think when achievements are tied to those things or trophies, it feels more engaging. I think just getting a thing for the sake of it feels less rewarding, especially like online achievements. Don't get me started on online achievements, especially for older games. Like if you're a completionist, like for me, I loved the Ghostbusters game that came out on the 360. I thought it was a lot of fun.
It was a good game.
But the problem is, so I beat it, and then I went back to it years later, and I wanted to play it again. So but I wanted to get all of the achievements this time because I hadn't yet. There are a handful of achievements that are locked behind the online play, and the online play is pretty much dead. Like, no one's on. You can't connect with anybody. I think at this point the servers are down, and it's like you can never 100% that game because it's attached to something you can't access. And I think that's also a problem with achievements. Like, if you are a completionist and you want to get all that stuff, on the older games, you can get locked out of it because they don't think of that post-release.
Right. They don't need to. They don't want to. They don't whatever. And it's one thing to be like, okay, EverQuest Online Adventures for the PS2 is $5 because it's an entirely online game. It doesn't exist anymore. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really annoying to be missing 1 or 2 achievements. There's some great videos on YouTube that talks about a lot of those sort of achievements. And it's frustrating to put in that system, to implement it, and then have it be hamstringed by lack of foresight.
Yeah.
And I feel there's actually in terms of these sort of like unlocks and achievements and everything else, I feel like there's, because for as long as I can remember, video games have always had achievement based unlocks.
Right.
You know, you get all of the Chaos and Super Emeralds in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and you can just start that file any world you can be hypersonic. Just
Right.
go for it. Have a great time. Get to the final dungeon in Final Fantasy IX in under 12 hours, which requires actually opening the PS1 disc cover to skip cutscenes. You can't do it in Europe because the refresh rate's too slow, and you get an amazing sword. Is it pointless? Yes, but it's just like it's awesome. And they've always been there. And much like in Mass Effect, where you do something effortful and it is rewarded. Those feel like good achievement points. But the kind of thing of like, all right, I got to the very top of this mountain. Why? Because I wanted to. I got every single enemy entry in Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Why? Because I wanted to. Because I just wanted to see it all filled up. Getting a little beep boop at the end of it, I honestly feels cheap.
Well,
Like there's certain, yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, going back to what you said about like accomplishment for the sake of accomplishment and stuff, it's like I'm playing Zelda, which I've put down for now because I've moved on to Mario and Rabbids. But I'll go back to it when the DLC comes out, which I think is this holiday.
Yes.
I wanted to get so much stuff in Zelda, and it had nothing to do with achievements. It had to do with great design. And I think that's ultimately what this is about. Like, the achievements were to fill in the gaps for games that were less than. I feel like a really great game that's well designed, you're not going to care about achievements because you're just enjoying the game. And I found I had that problem with some of the lesser Xbox games or PlayStation games that I was playing that I thought were okay. I found myself pausing the game a lot to pull up the achievement list because I just wanted a goal because I wasn't happy with the goals that the game had inherently. And I think that's the magic of using them as an example because they notoriously rarely have achievements, which is the Nintendo games and the consoles of the last few generations. They're just if you're playing a Nintendo game, it's because you want to unlock or do those things just based on design alone. It has nothing to do with a little notification.
Yeah, you don't need to fill up that 100%er. You want to find all the levels. You want to find all the seeds. You want to get every outfit because you're enjoying yourself while you do it. And there are times where it's not as fun. There are times when you are definitely like slogging through it, but you enjoy the gameplay enough that you're just like, all right, let me just do this thing.
Right. I think it's also, skill related too. I mean, think about the collectathons, which we haven't gone in depth on, although we will cover 3D action platformer collectathons at some point because I know both Geoff and I love them. But like, thinking back to Banjo-Kazooie or Conker's Bad Fur Day, like those games just had a ton of stuff to collect. And that was part of the fun, or even Donkey Kong 64. Like, there's so many different MacGuffins to collect, and you want to collect them all because collecting all of one or all of them got you stuff in the game. It goes back to the design and mechanics driving wanting to do that stuff instead of just getting a pop notification, push notification.
Yeah, we wanted to beat Metroid super fast because we got to see a girl in a bikini.
Right.
Like, was there extra points? No. Did like you get better gameplay? No. Why? 8-bit girl in bikini.
Yeah.
Want to see. And that the desires therein and the implications. That's for a whole nother kind of podcast. But we didn't need no ding dang trophy popping up telling us we did good. We know we did good.
Right. I mean, I don't want to be completely down on achievements because, again, I liked having a game with score and I liked being able to get achievements. But I think the thing that killed achievements on the Xbox for me, and probably why I bought a PS4 instead of an Xbox One, is I found out that the gamer score, as far as I know, and you can correct me if you're an Xbox One owner, I could be off, but I believe your gamer score does not transfer to the new system. You had to start from scratch with Gamerscore, or they may have gotten rid of Gamerscore. I don't even remember. But like for Sony, like the trophies, like it's just a percentage on the game of whether you 100%ed it or whatever. But there's no like score, as it were.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like I like achievements, and I think the fact that when they're built into the games and they feel fun within the mechanics, whether they're trophies or just embedded in the game, I think they're great. I think my biggest gripe is either the achievements that are so easy that it's not a skill to get them, or the achievements that require like no thought. Like secret achievements on the Xbox row is my favorite because you had to just figure them out. Like there
Yeah.
were achievements that said this is a secret. Usually they were tied to story and cutscenes, so they didn't want to spoil you. But sometimes they were just secrets that you had to figure out or look up. Like I think my favorite case for in-game achievement that wasn't really an achievement, although you probably actually got a trophy or an achievement for it, was getting all of the Riddler trophies in all of the Arkham games.
Yeah.
I did it for Arkham City and Arkham Asylum. I still haven't done it for Arkham Knight, but like that was a rewarding experience because then at the end you got an audio file, a cutscene, something happening. Like it was built into the story, and so it was super satisfying.
Also, you're Batman. You're the world's greatest detective, and you're catching the Riddler.
Right. Which is in and of itself really fun as well.
Right. And I mean, the Arkham series definitely captured, I feel, a good essence of Batman. Not the essence, but a great essence. I don't think any video game is ever going to perfectly capture Batman. And what they did with it was wonderful. And all of these, like, tracking down the clues and trying to solve it and trying to figure it out. That's exactly the Riddler. That's the cat and mouse of it all. That's, tracking down the gangs and trying to get the right goon to give you the right hint. That's part of the game. It's gameplay and trophy integration. And I think we're both getting at the fact that achievements in and of themselves are not bad, whether cosmetic or simple or vast and rewarding. But it's when they become policy and a blanket one outside of genre, outside of company, they have a tendency to just be sterile. They can be thoughtless. Like if you have to put it in just because you're supposed to put it in, that's not good design. And that's nobody's fault per se.
Right.
But, if you can choose to have a message play if someone sequence breaks the game, acknowledging it. There's no point value to that. Or if you want to have an achievement for that, great, cool. Everybody already feels accomplished for having achieved it. But when it's just simply there, when it just, I remember when I played World of Warcraft.
Mm-hmm.
I loved getting experience for getting to new areas of the map.
Yeah.
For one thing, I loved filling out the map. I just do that. Any Blizzard game, any Diablo game, I can't speedrun Diablo. Not that I'm not good at it. I'm terrible at it. But it's the fact that I need to fill out every map every time.
Right.
I don't do Tristram runs in Diablo 2. I just explore every corner. Diablo 3, it drives everyone insane. I explore every corner. And so I'm going to do that in World of Warcraft. It opens up. I have it on my map. That's really cool. And I get like little things of experience. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm becoming a more experienced and all this and that. And then once achievements happened and it was like fill out the map, I did it for a weekend. And then it was just like, nope, this isn't. It already was an achievement. Now that you've put a little banner on it, if you put it in from the beginning, I might have felt better about it. But as it being added like that, it's I don't know, it's filling a quota. I felt like they were doing it because everyone was doing it.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's like I feel like a better implementation of achievement style gameplay rewards in MMOs are done better with like daily and weekly quests. Like I'm playing Destiny 2 right now, which I've become a wee bit obsessed with. And like most MMOs, there's, once you get to cap level, you're then getting better gear to gear yourself out. And there you get milestones that you have to complete every week and others that you get every day. And they, it's battle in the multiplayer versus Crucible for X amount of times, or do 3 random dungeons, or go explore this planet, because they have public quests that you kind of just wander into, and then you have to do a task with anyone else who's around you, which is really great. But they also have stuff like, gain these faction tokens and turn in a certain amount, and then you get a reward. Like, it all feels... there's risk and there's reward within the game that makes it feel natural. And I don't ever feel like I'm just slogging. Now that could change. If it stays repetitive and the same, eventually I'll get tired of it. Like most MMOs, when you hit the cap level and you're doing the same daily tasks over and over again. But some of them are really interesting. Like there's a character named Cade Six who's voiced by Nathan Fillion, and
Mm-hmm.
he's a notorious treasure hunter. And his class that he leads is the hunters in the game. But every week you can go to him and get 5 treasure maps, usually restricted to one of the several planets. But those treasure maps, all they do is when you go to that planet and you're on the overworld map, it shows spades in different places. So you know that's where those treasures are. Go find them. And you can't set a waypoint. You have to go to sort of where it is on the map and then look around and find it. And sometimes they're in a tree, sometimes they're underground. Those feel like worthwhile achievements to me because you're literally being a treasure hunter, you know?
Yeah. There there are definitely times where something like that, it's all right, I have so much world to explore. I have so many options. What do I do? What should I try? Well,
Right.
have you considered going here this week? Well, now I have. Thank you. Let's see what I can do over there.
Right.
A perennial obsession of mine for subway rides is on my 3DS I play Pokemon Shuffle.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a big match 3 player.
Right.
I've never played Bejeweled. I've never played Puzzle Quest. I've never. Uh, I played 5 minutes of Candy Crush once. This is not to brag. This is simply just background. But the fact that it's Pokemon, and so you have type advantages, and they have abilities, and they every day you can check in, and they will do limited run things where it's okay. Um, there's this kind of a level with this Pokemon that's normally at like you can catch it at level, 372, and if you're only on level 212, it's a chance to get a little early or get super items or get cool little things, and it like kind of gives you different avenues to work with. There's no completion bonus, there's no like bar going on, there's no in-game Pokedex per se, but it gives you those little nudges one way or the other. Like if you just want to play the regular game without any online anything, fine, play the game. Enjoy the game. It's a freemium game, which also has its own things, but that's not what this episode's about. But it is nice to have those nudges in the right direction or to explore new avenues.
Well, sure. I mean, think about Pokemon at its core. I mean, Pokemon had a built-in achievement system from the very first game of just maxing out the Pokedex, getting every
Yep.
Pokemon. That's the base collect them all thing. I mean, that was what it was all about. Got to catch them all.
You got a
And
certificate. Great.
that got bigger and bigger. Or think about how even most recently with Pokemon Go, like the biggest thing about it was like people wanted to complete their Pokedex before they did all this other stuff and like get all of these Pokemon. Those are things that if Nintendo had a trophy system, say for this new Switch version of mainstay Pokemon that we're eventually getting at some point. If they put an achievement system, but it was based around like completing the Pokedex, which got you something special, getting male and female of every Pokemon, which got you something special, like breeding certain Pokemon, whatever it is, like if it's tied to the mechanics of the game, ultimately, I think that's what me and Geoff are both saying is that that's what really makes a solid trophy or achievement hunt is if it's tied to mechanics. Sure, if you have like 10 of your 50 trophies be about progressing through the game, that's natural and makes sense. But as long as that's not the majority, if the majority of those things are to do cool stuff, and that you're not missing out if you don't do those cool stuff, I think
Yeah.
that's kind of where they're at their best.
These are video games. People are going to do cool stuff regardless of if you reward them.
Yeah.
There is so much out there that we do it because it's there. We glitch the game. We reach the unreachable spots. Going back to World of Warcraft, people figured out ways to get into zones and areas that weren't completed. And in a way got rewarded with seeing, Blizzard even having put up signs of like, if you're reading this, you cheated and you shouldn't be here.
Right.
There were no points for that. There was, however, achievement in that.
Yeah.
So, I personally feel having achievement points and trophies happen as a matter of course of completing the main story as uninspired and hollow. Like, there's no grand reward for it. There's no catch in or anything like that. Using push 100 times and getting to use that with your other characters in Mass Effect, that is an achievement. Doing 100 pull-ups in Metal Gear Solid 2 so your grip meter goes longer, that is an achievement. Finding out how many times you can level that up before they start telling you maybe you should do something else, Raiden, is an achievement. Damn
Right.
it.
Yeah.
So the things that we seek out, the things that we push a little too far on, those are the things that can be rewarded and have been before the notion of a gamer score ever existed.
Right, which is why I wonder how much longer those are going to last. Like, at first, I thought for sure once the Nintendo Switch's infrastructure, which will be out early next year for their online play, they'll add achievements. But now I don't know that they will, because I think they know that good design pushes more than anything else. I mean, they've showed it with their games in their library.
Yeah.
So I don't think they'll actually go for that. I mean, they tried the Miiverse, which they're shutting down now. You know, they've tried a bunch of other different like social systems, but I think having the Switches pared down as it is, and just having the necessity for only certain things. Although I wish there was a message system for your friends list.
That'd be nice.
Neither here nor there. I'm not going to complain about that one again. But the idea that it's pretty stripped down and that the games speak for themselves is, I think, really great. I mean, like, they just started releasing streaming services on there. Like, as of when we're recording, Hulu is just released on the Switch, which is great. I love Hulu, and I have a paid subscription.
Same.
And that means that others will probably come soon, Netflix, YouTube, whatever else. But they didn't start with that, because all they cared about was the game.
Yeah.
Whereas the other systems, and I'm kind of changing the subject a little bit, but the other systems were looking for other MacGuffins. They wanted them to be multimedia systems, whereas Nintendo didn't start there. But clearly the Xbox One and the PS4, like their previous incarnations, wanted to have all of this stuff because they wanted you to be able to do other things besides play video games. And I think achievements can kind of lead to that. Like, we want you to focus on something else than just playing the game. Here's some stuff to do.
Mm-hmm. And I think some of that actually has to do with the projected idea of, I don't want to say the ideal gamer, but like the gamer identity of these systems and of these companies. I remember I think it was a PS3 era commercial that was all of these heroes in a pub. You're speaking of a grand
yes.
champion and all this. And they're talking about the guy who plays their games. And,
Right.
you know, you're the epic epicenter of a grand all of this. And so, yeah, you're going to have all these trophies, and people can look at your profile and see how far you are in these games. And you can have a gamer score that's like this because you are that guy who goes out there and does all that stuff. And Nintendo, I certainly get the feeling a little more of like, hi, do you want to play some games? Let's play some games. Oh, what sort of thing
Right.
should we do? I don't know. Oh, you want to make an identity for yourself? Here's a hyper bizarre polygonoid thing that you can sort of customize a bit and then talk with it. What about our score? You have a me. What? you got your stretched out Rayman ass looking mother there, and go to town, kids. Have fun.
Right. Yeah, I think that, ultimately, when it comes to trophies, it's about good design, like we said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that starting from the right place, like the fact that Steam, their achievement system tends to be a little goofier. The achievements have bizarre names. Sometimes there's overlap with games that are multi-platform.
Yeah.
But for stuff that's only on PC, they tend to have, like goofy names or strange tasks or whatever it is. And I think that's more entertaining, because then it just becomes like, oh, I did a thing. Oh, that's pretty funny. Like, it becomes kind of it doesn't stop the progression. It's just something you can comment on or acknowledge.
Right. And I think the PC gamer identity is very closely hewn to the Xbox and the PlayStation gamer identity.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm causing several international border disputes by uttering that statement.
Right.
But, or rather, the Xbox and PlayStation are hewn from the PC. But that's
Right.
just it. The PC gamer identity in that hardcore in whatever way you want to spell it. Use a K, use a 0, use a Z. I don't care. Has been going on for longer. And there have been literal generations of gamers that have come through that. And so I think Steam, with a lower entry point of development, which is just what it is, neither good nor bad, and can be amazing. Um, it does lend itself to a little more self-parody
Right.
and a greater ease of it. You can find the hardcorest and the simplest, the most serious about itself and the least serious about itself. And you know what? I think it actually kind of sits pretty well on Steam.
Yeah, I would say so too. And again, the achievements are not the achievement list is never a thing I even really look at. But when I get one, I get one. I mean, same in like Minecraft, which I've been playing for a very long time. Like they added achievements eventually, and some of them are pretty cool because you get to do a thing or find a thing and you get an achievement for it. But none of them, like I'm never looking to see, oh, what achievement can I do? I think personally for me, I've moved on from that. I was really into that, but I think I've hit a point where now I'm like, I just want the games to be good. All the
Yeah.
other stuff is bonus. I just want the games to be good. Whereas I think when I was playing a lot more games and I had a larger amount with maybe a lower quality, I cared more about that stuff. But now that I'm only buying games when I'm ready for a new game, when I have the time, and when it looks really good and has good reviews, I'm cherishing the experience more tightly, and I don't need a MacGuffin to get me through it. If they're
Yeah,
there, great, but like I'm not buying something just for that.
I agree. I think I guess the concluding statement is trophies and achievements in and of themselves are not bad, but if they're good, it's not because they're trophies or achievements by themselves.
Right. That said, of course, listeners, we always love when you share on social media what your favorite, for this case, what's your favorite achievement? If there's something that you unlocked in a game that was really great, what was it and why is it your favorite? Or tell us whether you do or don't like achievements. If you love them and like they define the experience for you, tell us and tell us why, because I'm always eager to hear that.
Yeah, or tell us an achievement that you've done in a game that wasn't rewarded,
Right.
that didn't have a trophy to it, didn't have any of it. I want to know what your Everests are. Why do you go because they're there?
Right.
Because I find those experiences to be just as fascinating.
Sure, because that's just people saying, essentially, what can I do to break this thing? Or
Yeah.
can I do to get around the rules?
Let's see how fast this thing can go. They put 140 on the speedometer. Let's ride.
Well, as always, thank you so much for listening. Sorry that we left you hanging for as long as we did, but we're hopefully not going to do that again. Please continue to follow us on all social media for updates on the show. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. You can find me at DJ_Stormageddon and at Geoff Makes Noise with a G, not a J. He's one of those Jeffs. And just please keep listening. We have a blast doing the show for you guys every 2 weeks, and we will talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Once again, I'm Geoff Moonen.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And happy gaming.